Hi, my name's Naushad. Some of you guys know me as Hi, my name's Naushad. Some of you guys know me as Shuban. And for some reason, some of you guys decided to call this podcast or yes, radio channel you choose. This is a simulcast for the Tottenham Depot. I'm very, very grateful that Andrew has helped me to contribute, and I'm very it was great that I get to chat with him, TC, Scotty, D, Cat, and our great signing of the year, Caroline Cass-Defco. And so basically, I'm really talking about obviously Newcastle beating Arsenal last night has basically made it easier for Spurs to qualify the Champions League. It's not guaranteed, obviously. And also, we have memories of Newcastle away in the last day of the season back in 2016. So let's not count our chickens before they're hatched, kind of thing. But yeah, hopefully we can get the point we need, or hopefully all three, and put to bed what has been a very strange season. And I think one that's been very marked by incomings and outgoings, both on and off the field. Obviously, off the field last year, obviously we famously fired Mourinho about 4 days before the League Cup final, and then essentially we brought in Fabio Paratici, how you want to say it. And then we were trying to bring in managers, and obviously, first of all, they look at Italy, look at Simone Inzaghi, and that didn't happen. And there was some other guy, I forgot his name now, but apparently his PowerPoint slide didn't work or something. It just didn't really give a good interview. Potter was obviously mooted, but I don't think he wanted to come to Spurs, and because in the train wreck we are, I don't really blame for that. We were willing to bring Gattuso, that didn't happen, and so we went with Nuno Santo, who has managed in the Premier League. Wasn't going to be as vocal as Mourinho, but did have the feel of a supply teacher, caretaker, and teacher, and it just didn't work out. And despite obviously he was manager of the month this first season, and there was obviously talks about, is Harry going to leave? Harry's not going to leave. There's been instability at the club. So and obviously, I think we came to that game. Is it end of October? No, end of October. Yeah, sorry, I've got a bit in my teeth. Against I think Man United, and we lost 3-0 or 2-0, I think. And Nuno was swiftly fired, and then about a week later, I think we brought in Antonio Conte, and then we kind of rolled the dice forward from there. Conte, there wasn't really able to bring him in because obviously the window had gone, and basically a lot of the signs we'd hadn't really kicked on. Romero wasn't the Romero that we'd known the last 2-3 months, especially Delaney really hadn't really shown that he wasn't really the goalkeeper we needed him to be. Emerson, wasn't really a decent, wasn't really the right player. And then obviously when we moved to the Conte fullback wingback system, clearly was just couldn't deliver a cross, even if the guy tries, but he's not really a fullback. He's not, he's more of a defender who does get forward, because that's what modern footballers have to do. And you think on Barcelona, that's what you would have been doing, but clearly, Barcelona got one over us, I guess, on that really. And essentially, we then, I think, in Brian Hill, and so none of it were working out. Obviously, Conte needed time to evaluate the players he was going to keep, and try and get rid of as many players as he could, and then say, look, I need to get these players in. And obviously, come the January window, we were able to bring in Kulusevski and Rodgers, and we'd obviously let our 4 go. And and again, they didn't have the most best of starts. I mean, obviously, they just came in and suddenly they didn't turn the world on fire. But I think we know that Kulusevski's been a really good January window signing. Bentancur, obviously, because we lost Skip, he was injured, and Harry Winks just isn't Harry Winks he was 4 or 5 years ago. Ever since that injury against Burnley, he hasn't really kicked on. He hasn't really come from that injury, and a lot of players don't. An injury can just so derail your season and derail your career. And sometimes the injury can be physical, sometimes just be a mental thing. Or it can be like whether you just can't feel you can do it, or it's like a motivational thing. As we saw Dele Alli, he just hasn't don't know what's happened with him, and he had everything, and yet somehow something's just gone seriously wrong with him for him. So really, obviously, going to look at that because obviously, some of this is going to be about me setting the picture. Obviously, in the year, obviously Newcastle. One of the main reasons they were able to beat Arsenal was that come January they invested heavily. Obviously, they were bought out by the KSA Sovereign Wealth Fund. I mean, just not limitless, but incredible amount of money they got access to. Much more than say Man City. Man United did make their signings. I mean, obviously, I saw Ronaldo, basically score a hat trick against us, and it was just like you had to applaud. That's just how good he was. And his goals against us all, basically got Nuno fired. But and they made some good signings. I mean, Sanchez is a good player. Varane is a good player. But ultimately, what you have to look at is essentially you've got players like Varane. He said, "Look, man," he said, "Look, I want this much to stay at Real Madrid." And Real Madrid said, "Nope, I'm not paying you that much. Good luck going elsewhere and getting it." And I think that's the kind of the number way to look at, because yes, you can make signings, and if you've got limitless funds, which also United do, but they just such a huge merchandising operation. They can get revenues in. Yes, the stadium's now kicked on. I mean, I was there for the Burnley match. Was it 61,000? Obviously, whatever. It was at least 60,000 at least in there. And obviously, I mean, but the Arsenal game was really what you really want, because obviously it was absolutely packed out. People there until God knows what time, on the goal line bar. And if that's a Champions League match, I don't think we'll get the same numbers, but you're going to get best premium tickets. And I paid, was it for my first Champions League game back in 2010? It was £75. I mean, I think they've gone up a fair bit since then. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of what that's just what you pay for. You're paying, it's what you're paying for, really. Man City, obviously, they brought in Haaland, so I don't think they'll be getting Harry Kane. Hopefully, Harry Kane will sign a new contract. But obviously, Chelsea. I shouldn't have. I really shouldn't. But with Roman Abramovich being sanctioned, and essentially, I don't think the sale has still gone through yet to the LA Dodgers owner. I don't know, Todd Bowler or something. That sounds like Tom Bowler. And that hasn't happened yet. But I don't think they'll be able to fund them the way Abramovich was willing to. Abramovich was like, no one had problem with his money back when I think it was a Labour government back in 2003, and then it was the coalition, then it was the Conservative government, and no one had a problem with his money until obviously Russia invaded Ukraine. It was like, oh, Abramovich is a little bit dodgy. No, we can't have his money anymore. And it just sounded like Chelsea was such a visible signing. So yeah, that was what happened there. No, like I said, it was interesting to see. I was in Liverpool. They signed Diaz. We weren't able to sign Diaz. We were linked to him, but I think Kulusevski's a much better signing for us. It's just the way Diaz is a much better signing for them. But it is crucial to make the right signings. Who you appoint off the pitch and who they're able to bring in onto the pitch, and who you let go. That's absolutely crucial. And just as much what you do on the training pitch, who you're able to bring in, will define your season. And I think Arsenal, I look at this. I mean, I think this they'll challenge us for fourth, mainly because we just shit the bed a lot. I mean, Wolves, Southampton. That's because we just didn't have the players. And you just couldn't bring on players to say, I'm going to change things up. And I think we are massively going to invest not only in our bench, but in our first team players. I can see, and I'll talk about who I want to see. I want us to bring in. But obviously, Man City have brought in Haaland, so that's a big. I'm not saying it's a big chunk of their kitty, but that is, that's their key signing. They might sign 2 or 3 other players. Obviously, like Fernandinho's aging, he'll probably be, obviously to replace him. But and someone like Bruno Guimaraes, who Newcastle signed, someone that they would have wanted to have signed, but obviously, see Newcastle. I mean, Eddie has a good manager, and to be fair, Bournemouth did back him. They signed Solanke for about 16, 17 million. Didn't work out, and Bournemouth can't absorb such losses. Not as easy as say someone like Newcastle. They're really wealthy owners, obviously clearly can, and neither can we. So hopefully we'll make some signings. So yeah, let's just start there. So I'm going to go start off. We'll not say the bottom of the bargain, but these are more low key signings. And my first one is Scott Twine. Anyone who's looked at MK Dons, I've been watching MK Dons because Troy Parra's been there. Sadly, they didn't make it to the to the playoff final. But Scott Twine has been a huge instrumental. He's got more goals and assists than Parra. And the reason I'm saying that we should look at signing Scott Twine is that essentially you've got chemistry there. And you say you can't buy chemistry, you can't, not always. But if you can get two players who've played together and played well together, and you can bring them into your team, that's built-in chemistry. And we saw that with Jan Toby. They obviously had it at Ajax. They have to have it with the Belgian national side. And if you can bring that built-in chemistry, to your team, because there was I think saying about the England rugby team and how they looked at they quantified it. They said, look, by playing players who play together at club level, at international level, because they've got inbuilt knowledge of playing together all the time, it works. So that's the reason why. And I really look to say, look, I think Scott Twine, people want to look at him and say, well, he's not really that good, but there is talent down there. We found Daddy Ali from there for MK to answer that, puts pressure on Scott Twine, obviously, but there is talent there. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain came to Arsenal from what was a League One Southampton. Clearly, Southampton should have been in the Premier League, and which is where they are now. But he is a very, very good player, and so I think Scott Twine has got value. I think that him and Parrott, because I would literally say, look at the League Cup. We need to play our kids over. Dane Scarlett, I think, will go out on loan next season. Alfred Devine will go out on loan next season, and I think that's really important. Let's bring in someone who's been out on loan and say, let's see how good you can be. I think, obviously, someone like look at Troy Parrott over the pre-season. We can get the deal done for Scott Twine, and we can see how those two link up. I think that'll be kind of like an amazing thing to see how those two link up in pre-season, show their chemistry, get them in the League Cup. Obviously, there'll be players that won't be playing every week in, week out in the Premier League and the Champions League, because that's the thing. We haven't been able to rotate players, and it's a good thing we're out of the Conference League because we would be so short of numbers. So it's really good but now we are going to be playing week in, week out, high level, both in the Premier League and the Champions League. We need to invest. So Scott Twine, he is my signing number one, because I think he's got good value. He knows Parra, and I think those two can link up really well. And I think in that pre-season tour that they're going to be doing this in, I think, South Korea, I don't think Harry Kane will be playing anywhere near as much. Obviously, he's got England Nations League and all that kind of stuff. I think you can see how good those two are going to be. So for me, Scott Twine's the first signing. So my second signing will be Yuri Tillemans. Yuri Tillemans is on an expiring deal. I don't know why Richard Pochettino didn't sign him when we had the chance when Musa was going off, but that was our fault then. We made bad signings. Let's face it. Either in 2018 we didn't make any signings, or in 2019 we made a whole bunch of bad signings. Apart from Right Esnion, and even he's taken about 3 years to come on, because that's what happens with kids. Some kids, especially when he was like 19, 20 when he joined us, and now he's 20, 23. But he's he takes him time. So that'll be my so my signing number 2, if I was kind of my train of thought really. But will be Tillemans. I don't think he's got the Harry Winks. I personally, he's someone I'll be looking to move on. I'd like to say that go to someone like Fulham, go on a loan deal. I'd look to put out a couple of our players. I actually would put Harry Winks and Brian Hill, not because they have chemistry, because they haven't played together that much. It's like that's half a season, but they're players you're thinking, well, they could come back to Spurs, rehabilitate, and then they get that they get their their time in, but they play together, and if they play together, they can bring that chemistry back to Spurs, or we can then move them on again. And so, look, buy these two as a pair. They've got chemistry, and you're buying built-in chemistry. So that'd be 2 players I'd be looking to loan, not to sell. I think there's value in Harry Winks, and I think there's value in Brian Hill. But I think Tillemans comes in, and his contract expires next year, so we can pick him up for pretty much pennies really. So, and hopefully, because we do that, I know Lee doesn't like to bring players in early because he's got to pay their wages, and he's obviously we're not playing matches, therefore I'm paying wages. But you want to get them in early, bed them in, and say, look, go on your holiday. I'll sign you once your holiday's done. And that's it, pre-season. So they're ready for pre-season, and that's something what I'm hoping we do. And so moving on to my next set of players. Now, people will question this is. I think he's made one key big name signing, not because he's a big name, big marquee signing, but if there's one player I'd look to sign, there's a few players, for left side centre back. Obviously, with some wing backs, I'm not talking about that because my boy Dakota, who you'll hopefully hear from at some point on Depot, he knows much about wing backs. I don't know anything about wing backs, so I'm not going to talk about that. But Bastoni is someone I've looked at, and there was a few other Schlotterback, who's now going to go to Bayern Munich, and there's another player who's he's a Croatian lad. I can't pronounce his name, but he plays for RB Leipzig. I'm looking at Bastoni mainly because Conte's worked with him before. He knows him. He's his man. And we need someone left side centre back. Ben Davies has done a really, really good job. He has. So that's why I think you bring someone in, because people will say, well, why have you got Ben Davies there? Look, United, Liverpool had Mane, Firmino, and Salah, the Red Arrows. They still brought in Jota because they saw value in Jota. And they said, well, they saw they got Jota, they got those players, and then they brought in Diaz because they thought, well, do you know what? Players get injured, players can lose their form. It keeps them sharp. And another left-sided centre back. We're not over reliant on Ben Davies. And sometimes you need special rotated players. Oh, you've had a really tough game. Do you know what? You're looking a bit lucky. I can bring on Ben Davies, or I can swap them around. So that's been so Bastoni would be my key marquee signing. And the other two signings, well, because I think striker, let's face it, we're not going to best price Harry Kane. And if we look to bring a big name striker, to hold it up, and then maybe Van Veghorst if thing goes down, Burnley go down. So he's a big sort of 6'6" guy, good feet. You can pump it up to him long. Sometimes you don't. You've got to play about that. That circa route one kind of thing. But for me, I think Troy Parrott, 6'1", very mobile. I want to give him a chance. People want to say, because the kid can finish. He does some smart finishes. If you ever saw that lob, I can't believe against Sheffield United, I think it was. He did a lob goal and it was beautiful. I thought, wow, this kid can really finish. And obviously that's in League One. But Harry Kane wasn't putting up trees in League One. He wasn't putting up trees in the Championship. I think he went to Norwich and Leicester. But given the right coach, if you look at Troy Parrott now, I remember seeing him. He was a kid. I think he scored about 4 goals or 5 goals. This is in the UEFA Youth League, Champions League Youth League. But if you see him now, he is just really kicked on to another level. So that's the player I'd look to, kind of bring in really. So just moving on from that. No, but I think to give Troy Parrott, give him a chance. And obviously the other two players I'm looking at, Eriksen and Bale. People say Eriksen is very romantic. Obviously, he has heart issues. I don't think he's going to play every game, but he's got that ability to unlock a defense. He can see a picture and a pattern. You can play him instead of Sonny, or play him instead of Kulusevski because he's playing as right wing forward. You can play him deep in midfield. He just covers so many boxes. So that's how I try to bring him in. He knows the club. He also knows Conte. Conte has figured out how to play with him. Didn't want the first, didn't really want at all for Inter Milan, but learned to win and learned to win a title with him. So that's the player I'd look to get. The other one, so people say Dybala. Dybala's a very good player, but he's had his injuries. He's going to cost a fortune in wages, and I just don't think he's worth that. Sorry. I'd rather put the money on Gareth Bale. He's homegrown. I think he'd be a slightly different sort of contract, maybe 2 years. And again, he's not going to play every single game. His legs just aren't there anymore compared to the player he was obviously 10, 12 years ago. But you just don't want him. You want to come on as an impact sub. The players I think we're going to be letting go are probably Lucas and Bergwijn. I like Lucas, and I'm always grateful for the goals and the Champions League goals he scored. But let's just face it, he isn't the player you want to be. He'll be two players and run to a third. He just hasn't got the assists or anything like that. Stevie B, I want to keep him, but I think he will go purely because he's what's the word? He was playing for Holland in the World Cup, and he needs to be playing. He needs to be starting games, and we can't offer him that. I don't think he's good enough to start for us. I think not every single match. So I would actually look to, I'd reluctantly let him go. It'll be sad, but he's a great player. But reluctantly we'd have to let him go. I can see players like David Sanchez being let go. David Sanchez, oh god, there's a player that essentially he's like Romero. Basically, he had a really good first season, but he kind of tailed off. He never was able to do what he needed to do. And the thing with David Sanchez is he's always relied on his pace. Romero just reads game really, really well. Now that ability, your ability to execute what your mind wanted to do, that will wane over time. But Romero, what he can do with the ball as well, he's just a Rolls Royce of a player. He's very good with the ball. He's kind of like a hybrid, really, of basically 1-5, maybe not as good as 1-5 on the ball, but he's very good with the ball. He's good with the ball, and he can read the game very well. He's a very good defender, very front. And he seems to be working as the right centre back really, really well. And obviously, if we have to play 4-3-3, we obviously play him and Saber standing together. So I think that would also work. So yeah. Gareth Bale. I wouldn't want to make a whole bunch of signings because you think about it. You've got Skippy coming back. Reguilon who's going to come back as well. Doherty, who's finally starting to show some promise as the overlapping fullback, just creating those overloads. Crossing, he's got to work on both. He has to work on it. I can see us bringing someone in as fullback. I'm hoping some Sergio Reguilon. Don't see him play the Nations League, and who knows? Maybe Conte can really do a job with him because Danny Rose wasn't a great crossing fullback. He wasn't, but what he was able to do, he was able to get up there and create the space to allow players, the more creative players like an Eriksen, like a Lamella, to create those pockets of space. And that's how you get that creativity. Because if you can weight the pitch wider, which is what they'll do, that's what you need. But you need Sergio Reguilon to make those runs. But also you need him to say, look, take on that guy, get across him. If at worst you get a corner, not the worst thing, they block it. Do you know what I mean? And we're seeing that from Cess as well. So I think we might keep Sergio Reguilon just because it's so hard to find good left-footed players. As for right wing backs, who knows? Maybe Kyle Walker Peters come back. I don't know, but I'm leaving with that. So I definitely think those are the 5 players I'd look to bring in. There's no players that are free because obviously they're signing on fees, agents fees, and stuff like that. But essentially, and I think Eris, especially because obviously Brentford is done them real solid, giving him a chance to recover his career. But that's just football really, and Champions League is unfinished business. So I think and hopefully the outlay won't be that much. I can see us moving on Sanchez just because he just isn't the player that we need to be. And I think Tanganga, I don't know if he's quick or not. He's a quick player. We obviously played him at right back, which means he's got a bit of pace. He can get forward, and I think who knows, he could be the player that we need him to be. And he didn't. He's had some good performances. He's just a little bit too aggressive at times, but I think you can iron that out. I think Sanchez, if you can move him on to Spain, where I think his speed will be fantastic, and a huge asset. Who knows? Maybe Villarreal. Maybe we'll sell him there. That seems to be our hand-me-down club. It seems Spurs exit club. So that's someone I'd look to move him on to. Lucas and Bergwijn. But those would be it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little return of YouTubes, and hopefully please check out Tottenham Depot at Tottenham Depot. And I've really enjoyed doing this. As always, come on, you Spurs. 1, 2, 3.